Californians were issued a coronavirus travel advisory recently, discouraging them from any travel unless it is for essential purposes. Anyone who does travel out of state would have to quarantine for 14 days. And that is the responsible thing to do as the country is experiencing a spike in coronavirus cases. But apparently, that advisory doesn't apply to the governor, Gavin Newsom, who decided to travel to Napa Valley for a fancy dinner with lobbyists. Let me give you the details. Governor Gavin Newsom is weathering a ferocious backlash for his decision to attend a 50th birthday celebration for lobbyist Jason Kinney on November 6th at the French Laundry, a bucket list level dining icon in Napa County. So Newsom said that while the outdoor meal did not violate coronavirus restrictions, he showed poor judgment in attending. Now, there's the coronavirus angle, which is, certainly a valid concern to discuss, but there's also a larger issue that infects every part of our political system, and that's the issue of corruption. Remember, he went to Napa Valley to wine and dine in this fancy place with a lobbyist to celebrate a lobbyist's birthday. And it's not just any lobbyist. It's apparently someone who's very close to Gavin Newsom and has certainly influenced Newsom's leadership here in the state of California. And I'll give you specific examples of that in just a minute. But Cenk, do you want to jump in?
I don't understand why they do these things. So do they not mean it? Because we mean it. When we tell you, hey, make sure you're wearing a mask indoors, we really want to protect your health. And when we talk about how dangerous coronavirus is, we're careful to tell you that it is so easily transmissible. Luckily, the fatality rates have come down. We're trying to give you the full context of it so that you and your loved ones are safe. After seeing these stories, it's possible, and now you're gonna think, Cenk, you're so naive, right? The Democratic politicians never really meant it. And it's not fair to call them all Democratic politicians because now there's real progressives in the party. But that some of them thought maybe it was just a political gimmick or something, because why the hell would you go and have these dinners with people you don't know well? You're right next to them eating food, which is among the most dangerous things you could do. In Newsom's case, they claim it was outdoor. I guess I'll believe them. In the Hawaii case, it's indoors. And by the way, Newsom is in the middle of the political spectrum within the Democratic Party. The guys that are going to Hawaii to meet with the lobbyists are all conservative Democrats. So it's not surprising that they would agree more with the Republican position, I guess, of coronavirus. Who cares, man? I got oil lobbyists to meet with. But most importantly, as Anna explains the story to you, you'll see that the real problem is they're hooked, they're addicted to the lobbyist money. And so no matter what happens, coronavirus endangering themselves and their loved ones, it doesn't matter. I gotta get the oil money, I gotta get it. And it's the problem of having it entrenched in our system. So Republicans and Democrats are hooked on it. That's why Turks emphasizes getting money out of politics more than any other issue. Otherwise, you're not gonna have either party that's honest, and this story is a great example of it.
Exactly. So I want to get back to Jason Kinney because he is a well-known lobbyist who, again, to repeat myself, has had influence on some of the bad decisions that Gavin Newsom has made in the state of California. So just to give you a little background on Kinney, Politico reports that Kinney was chief speechwriter for Governor Gray Davis, served for years as a senior strategist for Senate Democrats, and has long counseled Newsom politically. He continues to advise Newsom on politics, even as his lucrative, newly launched lobbying firm works on bills that could land on Newsom's desk. There's a huge conflict of interest there. Now, while Kinney worked on Newsom's transition team and has continued to counsel the governor, he has also launched a lobbying shop, Axiom Advisors, whose client list included major California players that spent heavily to influence state policy. Axiom reaped $10.9 million worth of lobbying work in 2019 to 2020, the first legislative season during which Newsom was governor. 3 different park operators hired Axiom, the lobbying group. And then Axiom, of course, is gonna lobby to Gavin Newsom, and then Gavin Newsom announces, I'm gonna open some of the smaller parks, right? Now, recently, he decided to close parks down again because, of course, there's a coronavirus surge, but there are other examples, including fracking, which Gavin Newsom publicly says he's against, But behind the scenes, he's like handing out fracking permits left and right. Okay, there's no question. So the single most can you say this word, Cenk?
Remunerative.
Sorry. So I guess lucrative client for Axiom in the last 2 years has been Marathon Petroleum, giving Kinney's firm $525,000 worth of business. Marathon is a member of a powerful oil industry organization that battled proposals to ban hydraulic fracking. So then I looked into some of the fracking permits that were given by Gavin Newsom, and here's what I found. On June 1st, in the midst of the turmoil created by the coronavirus pandemic and the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, California Governor Gavin Newsom's administration quietly passed 12 fracking permits to Era Energy, a joint venture owned by ExxonMobil and Shell. Era has well-connected lobbyists in its corner who work for the firm Axiom Advisors.
Yeah, so there's supposed to be some sort of moratorium that Gavin Newsom said would exist on fracking, and then he's allowing fracking permits all over California. So that is a curious moratorium. It's perhaps he doesn't quite understand what that word means. And then he's asking the legislature for a ban on fracking. That's what publicly facing, that's what Gavin Newsom's asking for. Meanwhile, he's telling one of his best friends, Kinney the lobbyist, get me some fracking permits. Where do you need them? Where do you need them? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's do more fracking before I ask for the fracking ban. So this is why people hate politicians. And by the way, Gavin Newsom, if he has a good explanation for this, he's hiding it. He should explain it in public. Because maybe we're getting it wrong. Maybe there's a great reason to frack. Maybe moratorium doesn't mean what it sounds like it means. Maybe him asking to ban the fracking is a plea for help. Like, oh, I love fracking and I love lobbyists that my friends profit from. So help me ban it, right? Because I can't control myself. So this is the sickness of money in politics. It just permeates everything. Because I don't think Gavin Newsom's a bad guy. I think that Gavin Newsom is a very regular politician.
I think he's a questionable guy to say the least.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we think of him personally, right? What matters is what drives him. And like almost every politician in the country, what drives him is the money, the money, the money. Not for personal enrichment necessarily, that might come later. But I need the campaign contributions to win the next race and the next race and the next race. So I gotta make as many lobbyist friends as I can. I gotta help the oil industry as much as I can until it becomes politically damaging, and then I'll go raise money from environmental groups. But the money, the money, the money, right? Republicans are masters at this. Democrats are idiots. They take less money than the Republicans do, but sell out just as much. And so they play a losing game nonstop. It's not just Newsom, it's not just California, it's all of it. But one other point of criticism here for one other set of folks, which is, in this case, Politico writing a couple of good articles about that. Politico's center right, okay? So they're not insane right like all the Daily X and Daily Y that you see online, etc., and the Breitbarts of the world, but they are definitely right leaning. So in this case, it winds up being a good thing, because they're about the only people holding Democratic politicians accountable. Because God forbid that LA Times or San Francisco Chronicle should do, or any local news station in California ever do any real investigative journalism. It might hurt their beloved Democratic Party. They need the access so much. Why aren't they screaming from the rooftops about how Gavin Newsom is fracking all over the place? And why did it take Politico to embarrass them in getting this scoop about his fancy lobbyist dinners? Nah, they don't want to do any journalism, man. There's nothing the corporate media loves more than corporate Democrats. Corporate Republicans come in second.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. But it's just amazing how, no shame. Fancy dinners, lobbyists, you see the end result of terrible policies actually being implemented. And and Cenk is right. This is not a virus that simply infects local politicians in the state of California. This is our entire political system, and that's the reason why, regardless of what polling indicates, regardless of what Americans actually want, in the end, we get politicians who pass legislation as favors to their donors.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.